Good afternoon, nerds. Welcome to Disorganized Play. Hey, I'm your host, Tom Lommel. I am the Dungeon Bastard. I am joined here by two super enthusiastic nerds. I've been getting it from both sides here today. Jen and John are with me, everyone.
What's up, guys?
Where might our fun viewers know you from, John?
My name's John Alejandro. You guys might know me from a show called Bravest Warriors. It's from the Creative Adventure Time. I voice a character named Danny Vasquez, and among other places, I'm an actor. I do that whole thing. So.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm an actor too. I do that whole thing. Jen, what do you do?
I'm also an actor.
Oh, well, we're all actors here. Welcome to North Hollywood, California.
I'm Jen Kretschmer. You guys know me from all the D&D stuff.
All the D&D stuff.
I already see friends. Hi, Vincent. What's up? I also am a TV producer. So, yes, all the D&D.
Very good.
Though.
All the D&D.
All the
D&D. Well, what we are here to talk about today is, in fact, all the newest D&D things.
Spoilers.
Dom was like, hey, why don't we do a preview of Xanathar's Guide? And I was like, hey, that sounds cool. It does come out in stores tomorrow, so why not get the jump on it? We got it last week at GameholeCon as part of the D&D Extra Life stream. If you did not watch that, go back to the D&D channel either on YouTube or their VOD on Twitch. You can check the 5-hour epic that Chris Perkins DM'd for myself and Gaurav and Ed Greenwood and John Kovalik and Pat Rothfuss and Aaron Evans and boy, I don't think I left anybody off that list, but it was a great time. But we got copies of Xanathar's Guide and we raised a lot of money for Extra Life. And so we had one, and I said, yeah, I was like very mellow about it. I'm like, yeah, I suppose we could do that. That's fine. And Dom was like, you know, Jen and John want to come on the show, and they're kind
Jen has been tweeting nonstop.
Kind of hype about it. Kind of hype about it. So yes, so that's what we're gonna do today. We're not gonna so much do a recap of the show last night. Normally on Tuesdays, I prep my D&D game with you guys and give you my sort of organizational thoughts about what might be going into a Wednesday night session. Then we play 5e live right here on Saving Throw Show, like we did last night.
Nice.
Then today I usually have a little recap of, well, here's what happened, here's what I would have changed. Like, I don't know, I would have gotten more than 4 hours of sleep before I DM'd. I still would have been on set for 10 hours a day or for 14 hours, whatever it ended up being. I was not going to change that part of the adventure. But at any rate, today is just sort of a special episode where we're going to page through Xanathar's Guide. I'm going to let them geek out. I don't think I can match it at this point. I walked into the room and there was just sort of this effervescent wave of nerd pheromones just pumping. I want to play this one. I want to play this one. I want to play this one.
Oh, yeah.
It hasn't stopped. So you know what? For your benefit, let's get it restarted, shall we? So let's take a look. Let's crack it open. Now, Jen, you have just sort of casually paged through this, yes?
Yeah.
Are we on our overhead cam? Does it? Oh, look fancy. All right, I'm all squared up. Good deal. So if you all in chat have a particular question about something, we'll try to look it up. We're not going to go page by page through the entire book or try and answer every single arcane question about the book. Hey, part of the idea is maybe you should buy it. I'm happy to give a high-level overview for people who are like on the fence or trying to decide what's in here, what's for me, etc.
The short version is you should buy it because it's amazing.
I'm so excited.
I think so. I just before we get too deep into it, and you guys can peruse the table of contents. I don't know if you can actually peruse the table of contents.
If you can't see it on here, Wizards of the Coast did release it when they hit certain Extra Life goals. So I think for $40,000 they released that, so you can actually find that online and look more in depth.
Oh, man.
Are you a little excited about this book?
Might have been excited about this book for the last however many months.
Very good. Yeah. So I will say I have flipped through it. I've not. What is that, Dom? That's a brand new noise. Computer enhance. Was it?
I'm pretty sure that's a Patreon.
Do we have a new Patreon backer? Awesome.
Cool.
Very good. Very good. We're going to have.
Really loud.
That is super loud. Yeah. We're going to have a little special. I think what we've decided is that.
Okay, I gotta stop that.
My DM's talk, my seminar that I gave at GameholeCon is going to go up for Patreon backers of Saving Throw Show first. So if you missed my DM workshop, which I'm almost guaranteed, unless you were one of the 9 people who was involved, you did miss my DM workshop. That's fine. you can get my seminar that'll be going up on Patreon soon. Anyway, so I have not combed through this in exacting detail. I've had a few other things going on since I got the book. But I will say, so just high level, I think a lot of people expected Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide to be this book, right? Everybody thought like, oh great, it's the first big kind of rules expansion. Even though if you paid attention to any of the marketing, you knew that it was much more of a lore and world building book with some mechanics tagged onto it. This is the exact inverse. So if that's what you've been waiting for, this is what you've been waiting for.
This is like your Player's Handbook 1.5.
Yeah,
This is
yeah. Well,
really
you know,
cool.
I will say I think it has some offerings for both sides of the DM screen, right?
I
Because
agree.
there is I think it's going to be most useful for players, especially those options that improve all the classes and all the spells. There's a big chunk of stuff here that if you're a player, you want to get your claws into. There's also some great clarifications and expansions for DMs. So I think it weighs a little bit maybe in favor of the players versus the DM, but regardless, it's still a valuable resource. And there's not a ton of world building baked into
Well,
it.
and I feel
right?
like Volos did the flip side. So Volos skewed much more toward the DM and gave a lot of great material for DMs to play with in terms of creating new enemies and fleshing those out. It's really great for campaign long big bads kind of thing. And was a little lighter in terms of the player side.
Right,
And this
right.
really gives you that balance. So.
Yes. John, you were going to say something.
I as a player am the most excited for this because of all the new subclasses. Because now this book is actually giving me anxiety because I don't know how to jam as many characters as I want to play in D&D, because D&D is a long, expansive process of gaming. And so now it's like, how do I choose? And
The answer is you don't, and you start like 8 new games a week. And
There you go,
That's
that's-
all you do all the time, which is pretty much my life plan now.
yeah.
I think we look 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 classes. So you
12
roll a
classes.
d12, and
Okay.
then that will determine which class you're going to play, and then you roll basically a d4 to see which subclass you're going to
Yeah.
play for a couple of them, right?
No, now
There,
it's like a D8.
start there.
Now it's like
Yeah.
a D.
Oh, I meant of the new ones.
Oh,
I mean,
the new
so
ones,
you don't have to
okay,
play the
okay.
old ones over again.
Fair enough.
I'm a fan of randomization. That's my life. So with that, let's kind of like let's pick
let's
through
do
it.
it.
Now, neither of you have actually you just sat down to see it, right?
Yeah.
I kind of poked my head in over her shoulder as she
I'm
flipped
here
through.
because I was tweeting so much, and you guys said, "Hey, come in, take a look." And I was like, "Really? Okay, I'm there. What can I start now?" This was days ago. I was pretty much like camped out outside waiting to be able
Right.
to get on.
So the first well, there's a short introduction here that does do kind of what I feel like is Jeremy Crawford sanity saving page is what I called it, where it talks about the core rules and how to apply them, and you can't get double advantage, and how your proficiency bonus applies, and just sort of some fiddling little kind of details that it's easy to get hung up on. When does your reaction go off? How often can I use it? How does concentration work? Some of the kind of the flourishy pieces of 5e that you kind of can get into the nooks and crannies there and go, oh, you really stick yourself in kind of a thought loop, right? Those are kind of refreshed here in my opinion. So that's what it sort of starts off with, is like, oh, by the way, before you start tweeting me, that's really what I see the kind of the opening introduction for. But then we get right into the character options. So we have roughly 65, 70 pages of different character options.
Oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man.
Somebody said, Vincent Kirk asks, aside from the Shadow Sorcerer subclass, which I'm almost certainly playing in January, I'm fascinated by the thing that read invalid spell targets and seeing how they elaborate on that. Invalid spell targets. I'm not sure where that might have. Is it here in the? It's not here in
Invalid
the.
spell
Oh,
targets.
was it in? Did we see it in our?
Let's see.
In our index. I'm going to let you look for that. Well,
I'm looking for it.
You know, I should look for it while you get paging through the subclasses. We'll kind of track that down. Invalid spells, spell descriptions.
Page 85.
Page 85.
Page 85.
There we go.
Ay, 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 ay.
Score.
No, yeah.
They're on it.
Who can turn the fastest?
Got
We
it.
don't
Got
even
it.
have a book yet.
Invalid spell targets. A spell specifies what a caster can target with it. Any type of creature or creature of a certain type.
What happens if a spell targets something that isn't a valid
okay, so
target?
yeah, so it's adjudicating if you're trying to cast a spell on something that you can't actually cast it on. So they're giving the example of someone trying to charm cast person on something that they think is a humanoid, not knowing it's a vampire or it's an illusion, whatever. So they give some rules about that, and basically the answer is it doesn't work.
You're out of luck.
When you can't
Too
target
bad for
something
you.
that can't be targeted.
Yeah,
Doesn't
and you
happen.
don't save the spell slot. You wasted the effort. It does talk a little bit about whether you can perceive that something happened to them or not. But that's the clarification there is, yeah, you burn the spell slot and it doesn't work. And too bad, so sad. They don't make a saving throw or anything like that.
Yeah. And so it's worth also mentioning that
It appears to... If the spell normally has no effect on a target that succeeds on a saving throw, the invalid target appears to have succeeded on its saving throw, even though it didn't attempt one, giving no hint that the creature is in fact an invalid target.
God.
Yeah, yeah.
See, that's exactly how I feel like it should be, though. So
Yeah.
they're doing it right. They're doing it right.
I believe this will load to D&D Beyond tonight at midnight, but I don't know whose midnight that is.
The other thing that's really interesting to know about this is a lot of the material
Can
in
you get
here.
his head out of the cords?
Excuse me, please. Here we go.
Lay down, buddy.
A lot of the material in here is based on the Unearthed Arcana. So these are things that have been published by D&D for public play testing for the last few.
Yeah,
years,
yeah. I
some
mean,
of
this has been out for you to fiddle around with for a good year for sure, if not a year and a half. I mean, there were hints about this a while back.
Yeah, and rules clarifications on things that they've been getting messaged about and kind of working through in there. So, but in that same area where that invalid spell targets, they really block out combat on a grid, which is something that's not really covered in the Player's Handbook or the DM's Guide this time around. So it's really helpful in terms of envisioning what cones look like and what various.
Yeah, there's some nice illustrations here on how you might be able to adjudicate that on the battle mat if you choose to go that route. So, yeah, let's dive in. Let's start at the beginning though. And I do kind of agree with Wraith's point here that I like the idea that they put this stuff out, they let people who want to fool around with it, and then they do some surveys about it and collect data and kind of let it kind of tumble a little bit until it gets a polish on it, right? Yeah. I think that's smart. Yeah. It's been a smart approach from the beginning of 5e.
Yeah, well, they don't have to be like, we're sorry for making something absurdly broken.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know you would I have buddies who are min-maxers, and that's exactly what they would like. So what's the broken thing? They would immediately go to Reddit and go, what's the broken thing?
Yep.
So
I feel like I'm a min-maxer, and I'm trying to fight it every day.
Why?
It is a challenge.
Why?
Because my DMs get mad.
Well, here's the why. I'll argue the why.
Yeah, all right.
If you have
This
one,
is devil's, I don't know which one's the devil, which one's the angel, but I'm not going to cast those kind of judgments.
If you're in a group of min-maxers, it's cool. But if you're the only min-maxer in a group of role players, what happens is you skew the difficulty of the encounter so that everyone else feels underpowered because the DM has to adjust the difficulty of the encounter to fit your character.
Right.
So that the players, rather than facing off against something that's a standard difficulty level for their level, end up facing it off against something that is a much higher difficulty level that hits a lot harder and is much more likely to wipe the party because you as a min-maxer are choosing to take on.
Yeah.
For me, it's just I like my character to have a very specific purpose. And I love these new subclasses because I feel like I have more variety in the choices of purpose, if that makes sense.
I feel like they really add to the theming of your character, right?
Yes,
so if you
yes,
want
yes,
to
yes,
play a barbarian who's essentially a paladin, you can do that now without having to become a paladin who casts spells. Like you can just be that full-on holy warrior who wades into the fray in the service of your god, and you don't have to worry about turning undead or any of that sort of stuff if that's not the concept that you have anymore.
Yeah.
So I like that
Lots of
piece of it.
flavor.
That's me. I kind of, I think min-maxing is like a bigger discussion than we're probably going to have today.
Yeah.
But it's like it's your play style, right? That's the thing.
Yeah. I think it's kind of like playing.
I agree, Ray.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Completely.
I think also we all naturally have that inclination that we want our character to do something cool. So whether that's something that's role-playing cool that okay, well I don't care about how many dice are on the table or whether I'm going to get a crit with this role-playing thing I'm going to do, or it is in fact like I'm the combat monster and I love rolling piles of dice. Like regardless of what avenue you attack the game from, it's still a matter of like I want my character to do something cool.
For me, it's my character should be good at what he's good at, and I am notoriously rolling 2s and 3s and 4s. Ask Jen. Like I am the worst roller. I roll 24 d20s and I'll hit 3 times. No, I swear to you. I swear to you.
See, the way I fixed that is Havana Mahoney, who normally sits in this chair, also is a terrible dice roller. I just gave her a weapon that's plus 11 to hit, and then everything kind of
There you
evens
go.
out.
You see,
She rolls 4s, and then it's a 15, and then it's like, you might hit, you might not.
I think some of it is that the DM needs to set it up so that people have the things that they're good at, and so those moments happen. I mean, for me, a lot of D&D is about giving people, helping both as a player and as a DM, encouraging people to have their moments where they shine.
Right.
And making sure that everybody around the table gets those moments, and as a player and as a DM, setting it up so somebody else can knock it down, and then doing the same for you.
Right.
So I think that's how I come to the balance on that.
Oh, I 100%
So-
agree on that. That it's your job as the DM to shine the spotlight around the table at different.
so I need to ask for a plus 11 weapon. This is what you're.
Yeah,
No,
that's gonna happen.
I don't think you ask for a plus 11 weapon. You just convince your DM, like, hey, can we play White Plume Mountain?
Oh,
That thing
yeah.
is loaded.
White Plume
Yeah,
Mountain.
just play White Plume
Writes
Mountain.
it-
It's loaded with
Yeah.
artifacts, and everything will be fine. You may have to fight a vampire lord in order to get it.
He's not gonna
but-
let you do it.
Oh
I
man.
see how it is. All
So
right.
I'm so excited for.
Here we go.
I think
We'll just
every
go-
single
we'll
one
just
of
go
these-
through.
Every single one. Let's look at every single one.
Every single
I don't
one
know
of
that we.
these is
We'll see how we
really
do.
amazing. Like every page I turn, I'm like, oh!
So structurally, I just
Exciting.
want to make a note here before we get into the specifics of all the subclasses, which they have given every class a little additional flourish, right? So they've given them, how we had like quirks and we had backgrounds and bonds and all that kind of stuff. And depending upon what your background was, you got a little table of additional things that you could roll on. Well, they've now done that for each of the various classes. So for instance, the Barbarian now has a personal totems table, a tattoos table, and a superstitions table, right? So it provides another layer of inspiration for you to craft your character and personalize them. I like this. Like I'm a fan of random inspiration as an improviser. I like this sort of suggestion. Sometimes I feel like, well, I could come up with that by myself.
Yeah.
But the nice thing about this is it's in the book. You can go to your DM. No, I have the antlers of an elk tattooed across my back. You can't tell me there's no elk or whatever. Now, that's a bad example, but
One of the things that I really like about 5th edition that I felt was missing in 4th was the emphasis on roleplay. And I feel like a lot of people come into D&D and really struggle with finding characters and finding ways to latch on to the roleplay aspect of it. And I feel like this gives you a great way to go, oh, okay, these are ideas of it, and just use that as a jumping off point to go, oh, but what if I did this instead? And
right.
Having details like that are a great.
I think it definitely helps beginners craft a character that's unique and interesting to them, and it also helps kind of bend away from what I consider to be kind of like Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter style stuff, where everybody is either like a Gandalf or a Legolas, and everybody ends up being, a Harry or Hermione or whatever.
Yeah.
This definitely helps give you like some bits to chew on, where you go, oh, what would it be like if I had a bear skull? What does that mean? Did I defeat a bear, or is this the skull of a dead companion that I had for a while? It gets the wheels turning in a different direction,
You
other
went
than
dark
just
with that really
steal-
fast.
Oh, John. welcome to my table.
He's like, or was it a companion? And I was like, and you just carry around his skull? That's so messy.
You gotta keep a
listen.
companion with you. I mean, gosh,
Wow,
yeah.
you think that's dark? You need to tune in on Wednesday nights. That's all I have to say
You just
about
finished
that.
a Ravenloft campaign.
Oh boy, yeah, no. So, each class has, but the cool thing about this is each class has a different set of tables. Not everybody has personal totems and tattoos and superstitions. For instance, well, let's just flip over to the fighter has heraldic signs. What their instructor was like, and what their signature fighting style is like,
Oh,
right?
so cool.
So it's dialed in for each of the character classes.
Fights
and I
have
really,
embarrassments.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Boy, do you think we can? Do you want to do a quick flip through on these? The primal paths. I like the ancestral guardians made it in here. The path of the storm herald is an interesting defensive style of barbarian, which I think is interesting.
For the yeah.
And it's one of those subclass with subclasses, right? So it's you pick Path of the Storm, and then are you doing desert? Are you doing sea? Are you doing tundra? So that's fun and interesting.
You could get a really cool storm party going. You get a Tempest Cleric and a Storm Herald.
Kind of mix them off.
Yeah.
It would be. I don't know. I'm kind of old school in that. I think it would be fun to just play an entire party of barbarians.
I think that would be so fun. That would be so fun.
Well, John, the next time there's an opening in our game, I guess we have to give you. Is there a lot of pent-up frustration over on this side of the table? Is that what's going on? Do we need to have some DM to player counseling, a little adventure coaching happen
Just hit with an
right
axe.
here? Yeah.
I roll so bad, guys. So bad that I have like PTSD on rolling dice.
Very good, very good. Yeah, the Path of the Zealot is the one that kind of just drew me in terms of like, I like the idea that it really is taking what ostensibly is some other classes, kind of that's their shtick, right? Like I'm the holy warrior, and bends it away into I'm the holy warrior.
Well, I like that because there's some times where like the paladin doesn't feel like if you have like a chaotic god, like I don't feel like you can be that kind of a paladin within the confines of the paladin that you were given in the other. Oath of Vengeance, I think, was a little bit more like that. But
Yeah, but it's still like you have channel divinities and things like that.
exactly.
And I will say, like to me as an old school D&D player, paladins still have a little bit of that stigma of I have to do what's right.
I am the
yes.
paladin.
I'm going to
This is my
detect
first
evil.
character I ever am playing. I am going to do things that
Instead
are
of just being
Well, and I had
Wielding it.
in my 3.0 game, I had people who used the paladin as sort of a way to short circuit any kind of role playing and be like, detect evil in that guy.
Yeah.
Okay, well he's evil. Let's roll for initiative.
I spite him. Okay.
You know, and it was like, all right, well you're not actually challenging yourself to figure out what's going on, and also you're just randomly slaying people.
Yeah, which not so cool.
That's that's your play style. That's your play style. But like the whole table.
They
kind of
probably
has to-
deserved it if I'm detecting evil. I mean, I definitely don't play a paladin.
I see what's going on. Very good.
There's a new paladin subclass, which we will get to.
I know,
That
I'm
is
really
actually
excited.
totally challenging that and completely subverting it, which is really interesting.
Yes.
So.
Let's take a further look here. So, but I like the effect that bards have embarrassments.
It's so good.
But that's so perfect, though. That's so perfect.
So that's that. I really do like these little opening kind of stylistic flourishes that they've attached here. So they've got the College of Glamour, the College of Swords. The College of Glamour really is sort of that. What's her face from Lord of the Rings? The elven goddess woman.
Galadriel.
Galadriel
Yeah.
really sort of is the Galadriel's kind of stereotype here, or it's certainly that mold where you are so beautiful and majestic that you inspire people to fight better.
Well, this is a lot of. They're saying a lot about seeing creatures to sleep and really just kind of using your talents to manipulate.
There's a couple things that I really like. One is they have the thing called enthralling performance, which operates on a totally different scale than almost anything else that I've seen. So enthralling performance, you perform for an hour, and then at the end of that hour, I don't know how many people, but basically anybody who watched the whole performance has to make a wisdom saving throw.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if they fail it, they're enthralled with you. You've
Yeah.
actually, honestly, like blown them away. They
Okay.
think that you're the greatest thing. And if they made the saving throw, unlike most of the other charm spells, they have no idea that you tried to charm them. Right?
Because they just think it's a performance.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not that whole thing of like, well, I cast friends on him and he does everything that I want for 1 hour or 1 minute,
But-
and then at the end of it, he's like, oh, that.
But you have to perform for an hour.
Right, and that's what I love about it
But
is
if you're a bard, you should be doing
Yeah,
that.
so
And
how
that gets
many
lost
times?
A lot of the time.
Exactly. How many times has your bard character said, "Well, I'm going to go play a gig at this
Right.
pub or
Exactly,
whatever,"
yeah.
Yeah.
and then there's no there's no rules for that, or it's a spell or an ability that's oriented very much for a dungeoneering style thing, but you're in a city exploration environment,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, performing this for 1 round and it lasts a minute, I don't care, or even 10 minutes is not enough.
Yeah.
Right.
So now you get enthralled. How long does that effect last?
1 hour.
Yeah, and so it lasts for another hour.
But then you
right?
could definitely get information.
so
You
you
can
can
get a
definitely-
lot done in an hour.
Oh, okay, so I'm wrong. You
Yeah.
perform for a minute.
A
You
minute?
perform for
Oh.
a minute. That's still.
It's a really good bard.
Yeah, but well,
You
but
do one song.
yeah, it's still on a different scale than it's not really a combat type of ability,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
you're not going to use this and go, all right, guys, for the next 10 rounds, stand back because
But,
while you,
but if you know you're going to have a combat and you know it's
Yeah.
coming, then you can
Yeah.
you can basically get your own army going.
right, yeah, exactly. Or
pretty
you
cool.
want to, swindle your way into the library of magic or whatever it is. I'm going to
Yeah.
put on an employee.
Yeah, it really gives the
Appreciation
flavor back
shows
to
it.
the bard of being able to kind of meta manipulate in a way that a lot of the time bards don't get to do anymore.
But that every bard player wants to do, right? Like, well, not
Oh, yeah,
every single
you
one,
don't take
but
a bard if you don't want to get up there and captivate an audience and rock out.
exactly. So I really like that particular piece of it.
Yeah.
The College of Swords is a nice kind of fighty bard kind of guy.
Sword juggler kind of performer.
Yeah.
I like.
Two weapon fighting.
I like that. I like being able to do the role playing aspect and still not being able to just be a total dweeb in combat. I really am into the College of Sword. It seems just like Paladin Light though, mixed with because you get
You get a fighting style.
because you get the fighting style from.
To me, this is more like taking the rogue dip. It's kind of it supersedes taking the rogue dip.
I also see Blade Flourish as very similar to your martial prowess moves, right? Except
Yes.
they're fueled by your bardic inspiration
Yeah.
instead. So I'd like
so
to
like your
see
maneuvers,
this.
yeah.
I'd like to see this actually like comboed with maneuvers and see what
Yeah.
this character turns into.
Oh, because you could do.
Because you have maneuver dice and you have your bardic inspiration and you have a lot of expendable
Yeah.
resources that you could
That's
kind
cool.
of kick back and forth. That's just what occurred to me.
I like this.
I like to talk about it. The College of Whisper, the College of Whisper.
So this one
is
looks
the
really
one.
cool.
Oh,
This one looks really cool.
I'm gonna let
Jen-
you guys talk.
Jen, please.
I'm done.
I
I'm gonna
mean,
have some soda.
College of Whisperers is basically like Faceless Men. It's the idea that you are a bard going town to town and you appear as a bard and similar to Arcane Trickster, you're not going to let people know that you're College of Whispers. It's very much
man.
going to be your secret. But you are going town to town. You are sowing discontent. You are planting paranoia. You are manipulating. But you get this thing where you get to if someone dies within 30 feet of you, you can absorb their shadow and put on their face. Like,
And the shadow will follow you until you pull another shadow.
Yeah.
So until like you can just become that person.
it's really,
What?
really cool.
What?
It's
Look.
really cool.
If we're going to pay homage to Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, we might as well get a little bit of Game of Thrones in there, right? Let's be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah. Oh man. Just
So cool. It's so cool. oh yeah, and you get to do psychic damage. You can use your bardic inspiration to do psychic
2d6
damage.
or something?
2d6 of psychic damage.
Ridiculous.
Which goes up again at 5th level. You get 3d6.
oh my goodness.
And then again at 10th. It scales all the way. But yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Clerics.
Clerics get temples, keepsakes, and secrets. No mortal soul is entirely free of second thoughts or doubt. Wow, no mortal soul is pointing with a broad brush because I doubt my life choices every morning when I wake up, but only for 10 minutes. So they have the domains that are included here, the Forge domain.
Which
And
we didn't really have a Cleric of Moradin set up yet in 5th edition, so this gives you, all of you Moradin lovers, rejoice.
yeah, and there's a ton of various things in terms of.
So the Forge domain, can they just like they're just like blacksmiths and
So let's lay this part of it out. At the beginning of the day, you can touch one weapon or piece of armor and say, "This is now magical."
Oh.
And it lasts until your next long rest or until you die. So if you die before your long rest, it's.
So I have just regular weapons in like every campaign because they don't let me have magical stuff.
No, you roll terrible. We would.
Oh yeah, I roll terrible.
Want you to
So-
roll better.
Yeah, exactly. And I run into things I can't hurt with normal weapons, so that would be very, very handy.
I mean, and this is at first level, right? Now you can cast it on yourself and give yourself a +1 to AC, or you can cast it on somebody. It only gives them a +1 bonus to attack and damage. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's
so,
good though.
So it's pretty cool. It's a nice temporary ability.
So what happens if it's already like a magical weapon? Does it just?
I doubt that stacks. I
Yeah.
don't know. I wouldn't.
feel-
I mean, if that's your.
I could probably get
It's
a
funny
+11
because
sword.
supposedly the min-maxer sits over here. I'm not sure I believe it now. Do I?
See, I try to tell you guys this. I try to say it's her. It's always-
when we get to cantrips, you will see
Here's the
my
thing.
next will come out because
You-
there's one in there that's just like.
I don't want to
So
puncture
shiny.
your burgeoning balloon of min-maxery, but it says at the end of a long rest, you can touch one non-magical object that is a suit of armor or a simple or martial weapon.
Fair
So
enough.
it can't be magical
There
to
you
begin
go.
with. That answers that question.
Oh,
So
yeah, it
I thought
becomes
that's a very cool ability at first
Yeah.
level, right? Like
No,
it's
that's-
not
Yeah.
game breaking, but it's like it's
That's
But
pretty
a
good.
+1
nice.
at first level is
Yeah.
pretty
That's
sweet.
it counts for a
In
lot.
5th edition, it's pretty sweet.
When you roll like John does, every +1.
No, every +1 is very, very valuable.
I am a big fan of the Grave domain. If you want to play the Healer Cleric, this is almost better than the Cleric of Life, I think.
Yeah.
First of all, at first level, whenever you cast a healing spell, it's just max. That's it, done max. And then secondly, you can have Spare the Dying as a cantrip for free. But you don't want to be
Clerics
spared.
are
You don't
broken.
wanna be-
Clerics are just broken. They're just. I just started DMing, and clerics ruin it for me every time.
Wow,
One
okay.
cleric can just solve every problem.
That's just not true.
This is broken.
No, it says you run out of
They get,
spells.
no, where's this? Where does this say that?
It's right here. It has a range of. It's at channel. Where is it?
When
yeah,
you normally
yeah.
roll one or more dice to restore hit points of the spell, creature is 0. At 0 hit points. Okay, I feel like that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Max HP.
Yeah,
From
yeah,
0.
yeah. They have to be 0. Yeah, yeah.
I love it.
And also they get Spare the Dying as a ranged cantrip rather than a touch cantrip, so that's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
that's pretty nice.
So it's for people like you who die all the time.
This is true. This is true. I
Does
don't
he die
die.
all the time?
I
No.
just suffer. I just.
All right. Well, fair enough. I guess when you come and sit at my table, I'll make sure that you don't just suffer. You actually
Oh,
pay the price. You make some death saves. Don't just sit there
Oh
frustrated
man.
like, I got
No, because then I'll just die.
I got a
because I
7.
roll so low. No, I'll roll like 20s on like perception check for walking down the street. Oh, cool.
Have you ever considered that maybe you're the support character? You're the plucky sidekick?
Oh, I definitely am.
Jenna's the main character?
Yeah.
Yeah. My Tempest Cleric just went in, and my very first attack in this new campaign was.
Yeah, it's pretty good. The
Yeah.
druids.
Druids
rock.
have treasured items, guiding aspects, and also a mentor. Not an instructor,
Mentors
but
this
a
time.
mentor. So there's Circle of Dreams, Circle of the Shepherd. I don't know if they added a third one.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, Circle of
no.
Dreams is really cool because it gives you teleport.
Oh, so this is really nice in that it really expands on and specifies all of the different beasts that you can actually turn
There's
into.
a whole beast-shaped table, you guys,
And
which
it's
is
pretty
so
extensive.
helpful, and it's broken down by your location.
Yeah.
So
by the
your
type-
grassland forest.
Yeah. Terrain type,
yeah.
CR, and whether they can fly or swim. So
What is like the most common thing that people transform into as druids?
Dire Ape, T-Rex. I don't know if I have a third
Yeah,
answer.
higher up, that's where it is.
T-Rex?
Early
'Cause,
on,
man,
wolves.
I'm just a
and-
walking everybody because I would totally love to turn into a T-Rex.
Well,
Oh, yeah, it's awesome.
It's a really nice hit boost. You do a metric ton of damage, but
That's cool.
You think clerics are broken? I would argue
Giant
that
spiders
druids
are
might be the
great.
most broken character, like because they get all of those hit points they have in that beast form
Yeah.
are all just
and when
extra
they drop
hit
to zero,
points
they don't die. They just revert
to their normal
basic.
shape with whatever hit points they had
Yeah.
when
Oh,
they.
that's-
As long as they don't take extra damage, you know, if somebody if you have 4 hit points left as a T-Rex and somebody does 60 points of damage to you, you're now down 56 hit points when you regenerate.
Oh,
Yeah.
so you're just dead at that point?
Well, I don't know. That's your problem. Depends upon whether if you only got 40 hit points and you haven't.
Yeah,
You're probably not turning into a T-Rex as part of it, right?
Fair enough. Fair enough.
No. But yeah, sure.
You
That's
know,
fine.
it just depends on what you need to do, and that will dictate which.
I love
class
the idea of shapeshifting, and I think this would be, if I had a superpower, that would be definitely what I would do.
It's pretty awesome. It is pretty awesome.
So we have what kinds of? If I can just take a look at this really fast.
You're getting your Circle of Dreams and Circle of the Shepherd.
Circle of Dreams. So with the Circle of Dreams, you can walk through
Yeah.
Walker in Dreams.
Yeah, your 14th level spell is really, really, really cool.
That's really cool.
You are able to travel through dreamscapes, which is really neat. And
Druids and bards are way more powerful than clerics. I would have to agree with you, Mr. Wraith. The bards seem pretty broken. As I'm taking more and
Bards-
more look at what
Bards are pretty
bards
sweet.
are.
Bards rock. Bards
I want to play bard now.
sometimes
this is my
literally,
next, probably my
depending
next
on
one.
what
I'm
kind of
gonna
bard
be.
you
Which college are you going to play? Are you going to play the College
See,
of Swords? Or are you going
I'm
to
gonna
play
want to
the...
play College of Swords, but I think I really kind of want to do this whisper thing.
Yeah, it's College Whispers is so cool.
Because it just seems like the fun one, and then like when it starts to unravel.
Someone's saying it's Dark Sun Bard, and I think I might wait till Dark Sun shows up and to play that because it really
Ooh,
is.
You think that's going to show up?
Oh, I think it's going to show up. Well, I mean, Merles was tweeting that he's already got his homebrew rules.
Okay, listen. What Merles does with his homebrew
That's
rules
true.
has nothing to do with what
It's
comes
true,
out in
but
this book.
It's also one of the most popular campaign settings, and we need it. It needs to happen because it's so cool.
I want cannibalistic halflings.
Yeah, I
That's-
want
all
to
right.
do my halfling.
I'm not
band.
here to foil your hopes and dreams by any stretch of the
but
imagination.
I'll get to what I think is going to be the next book. We're going to get there when we hit Ranger. I think.
Okay,
I think
all right.
I know where we're
okay,
going next.
all right, very good.
I'm guessing.
Reading the tea leaves at Wizards is a difficult task. That's all I can tell
It
you.
is, but I think there are hints in here. I mean, I think this opens up a lot of really cool new things. But I think, yeah, but
You have started an argument
I
on
am.
our chat here.
that's
Yeah, spoilers.
Do you want
Estelle
cannibal
Castillo,
halflings or
that's-
do you want giant space hamsters? It's so hard to pick, you guys.
Estelle Castillo has it right.
Giant
I
hamsters
think we're
would be
going
fun.
Planescape.
How many hit points do you think those would have? I mean, I'm a druid. I'm going to shapeshift into something cool, like a giant hamster.
All right.
You never know when they're going to be practical, okay? You never know when you're going to come across a giant wheel that you just have to spin for hours and hours on end.
I am really glad that these
Yeah.
beast-shaped tables are
Yeah,
in here,
I
though,
also
because
would
it was...
love to get some beast cards. I would love for them to do like the spell cards.
You know
but
they
with
make
wild
those,
shapes.
right?
Well, they're not.
They're inked adventures. They're a
Official.
third-party thing, yeah.
Yeah.
It would be nice to have
To
official
have
ones,
official ones,
sure.
is what I'm
yeah,
saying.
I do think... I like inked adventures, but their graphic design could stand a slight brush-up, in my opinion.
Fair enough.
Fighters!
My
Heraldic
favorite.
signs, instructors, as we covered earlier, and signature styles.
I like this.
So Arcane Archer made it into the book. Ba-bam, ba-bam, ba-bam.
So I think he's interesting.
That's another question. Is like I think the Archer fighter characters we have one in our game, and it feels really tough to challenge that person because they just sit back. And how do you threaten them while they're shooting +10 at shots across the battlefield and doing
Yeah.
piles of damage?
Yeah.
That's
Give him
difficult.
magical weapon,
Yeah, on top of it, give them magical shots to do that explode on impact. Sure, that doesn't seem like a solution to challenging them.
I mean, it's a challenge for the enemy.
I understand that
for
the
DM.
challenge for you is I have this really cool arrow that's going to miss, and I'm trying to contain my frustration. That's
If
the
they're
challenge.
exploding, I could miss and still maybe do damage. Think about it like that. I'm just gonna aim in the direction of that thing. Yeah. So do you with it said it was an elven.
Yeah, it's very much flavored to be an elf in here.
But do you have to be an elf to play that specific subclass?
It doesn't. I didn't see anything that says it's specifically linked only to being an elf. So I figure anyone who's gone and lived with the elves could probably pick it up.
Yeah, it doesn't specifically say that you must be an elf in order to take this.
No, it doesn't say you have
does
to be an
say
elf to
that
take it, but it's very specifically
arcane
an elven
archers
style.
are some of the most elite warriors among the elves.
Okay.
And it's a unique elven method of archery. So,
But if you can justify it somehow,
fringes of elven domains. It's very, very.
I would let you
heavily-
play it just to watch you roll twos.
Yeah,
and kind of
Still, like, dude,
tear your
It
hair
says
out.
methods of these elf archers have been learned by members of other races.
I end
You
up
can
getting-
also balance it with
I would take
absolute archery. So, sure. It's open to
all
everybody.
right. I would have to like.
Jen says it's okay. Do what you want.
The book says it's okay.
I prefer to
wanna see,
defer
like-
to you.
Dragonborn, like hung out with the elves.
Dragonborn Arcane Archer?
Yeah.
Why not?
Why
Why
not?
not? Why
Yeah,
not?
yeah.
Just be super broken.
Are Dragonborn broken?
Yeah.
Is that what we've decided?
I mean, they can blow. They're just.
They get a breath weapon.
They get a breath
Not that
weapon
often.
and a tail if you're lucky.
Well, we're going to get to racials too, because there's racial stuff. In
yes,
Oh,
there
yes,
are
yes,
racial
yes,
feats
yes.
in
We'll
here.
get
We're
there.
going to fast forward to
Going
that.
through a lot of
So,
stuff.
Arcane Archers
Archers.
here. Cavalier.
Which is
Mounted.
giving us mounted combat,
Yes, which is gonna be super cool.
which finally is really nice.
My question for you is, with mounted combat, would you want your entire campaign to be structured specifically around, okay, we're going to be a party that rides around on horses or wild beasts or whatever it is, like, we're going to be a party? Because I always find the thing where that falls down for me as the DM is, I've got a Cavalier character who wants to ride around with his lance and just like do bajillions of points of damage. And then what happens when you go, oh, okay, there's a set of spiral stairs, they're 5 feet wide and they go down 300 feet. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, well, I put my horse in my backpack and then when we get to the bottom, I'm going to...
I mean, you could do Knights of the Round Table kind of thing. You could
That's what
do,
I've kind of got going on with my campaign right now. It's a Knights of the Round Table bit. But yeah, no, I think it's kind of. I don't know how it would be super exciting to have just an all-mounted campaign because I would want to go in.
Have you seen Game of Thrones?
Of course.
Because you could also, I mean, there are a lot of different ways to flavor that. I think there are ways to make it fun.
Yeah.
I think
but you have to get everybody in on it. That's one of those like barbarian campaigns where everybody's got to be down for that.
Or you'd make a specific adjustment, right? Like I would actually consider like making like a magical bridle where I could shrink my horse down and put it underneath my arm. I have actually
that's kinda
shrunk
cool.
a deer down and adopted it, and people think it's a dog.
Ah.
Cool.
Yeah. I agree with Estelle Castillo, who thinks that I'm 200 years old.
Jen says is canon.
Cavalier is a very specific class, right? Like people who want to play Cavalier, is a very specific type. It's not like it's hard to go, hey guys, what do you want to play? It's very rare that you have the whole group go, well, let's all play Cavaliers. There might be one person who's like, oh, I really want to play this, but it's very rare. You might have a group of go, well, what if we did an all dwarf party or an all bard party or an all barbarian party or all monk party? That seems to bubble up on its own, but like it's a very specific player type who's like, I want to play this thing
I think
that's inspired from what I read.
I think that would be pretty cool and pretty fun. And I think if there was even one person, you could really make that work. I think you could absolutely make that work. And then have a like mounted combat section of the campaign where that character really, really shines. Because that's what D&D, like you have moments where your character is going to really, really shine. And if your character is all about that, it's you may have the party lure your enemies to open fields or like use that like mounted combat and mountedness to your advantage just in general. I think it would be fun.
So this Cavalier is not only mounted though. This also is about basically being bodyguards to the elite. Is what it looks like. So it has a lot of the flavor of Battle Master in here a little bit too.
Yeah, I like this ability. There's an ability called Ferocious Charger that you get at 15th level, and it says you can run down your foes, but it doesn't matter whether you're mounted or not. You just have to move at least 10 feet, right? So I like that idea that like, okay, if you have abilities that activate regardless of whether you're actually, on your mount or not.
Yeah.
What's interesting about this class though is I think this is class that I will use as a DM for characters that I am building. NPCs, like if I have characters going into battle that are mounted, I'm definitely going to be looking over this.
Defender of the heir to the realm.
Exactly. So
Right.
this will be a fun, as far as that is concerned, I'll definitely use that a lot more
Yeah.
in that realm.
Samurai, a fighter who draws on an implacable fighting spirit to overcome enemies. So
I'm all about it.
It's interesting. These are both sort of I serve the king type of people. Rapid strike. Ooh, my question on this rapid strike is, can you attack more than 3 times? Yeah, so you can forego advantage for that roll and make an additional weapon attack against that target as part of the same action.
You can do so no more than once per turn.
So I think...
Or you can rapid strike no more than once per turn, but you
Right.
might be able to attack.
So I think you could
as a
probably
fighter.
get maybe up to 3 or... Well, you could certainly do 3 attacks in a round. You might be able to do 4 if you stacked it right.
There's an interesting note about Cavaliers and Samurai as historical
Yeah,
things.
for people who want to play historically based campaigns or.
Yeah, they're basically
Reflavor.
saying, yes, those are both real, true historical classes, but don't subscribe to them actually being historically based. These are based on the movie versions of Samurai and Cavaliers.
Yeah,
not
this is
on
the fantasy world version.
Right.
Okay.
That's a nice little disclaimer in there.
Yeah.
Monks got a remake. Monks have monasteries, monastic icons, and their master are the
Interesting.
little pieces of inspiration here. So we have Way of the Drunken Master.
I think everyone's excited for that.
I do not disagree. Way of the Kensei, and then Way of the Sun Soul. So the Kensei are really the monk weapon kind of masters, and the Way of the Sun Soul. I think we've seen. Where have I seen?
Sun Soul's been around.
Yeah. That feels like it's been out there long enough that people have kind of played through it, or incorporated it, right?
Yeah.
Paladins have personal goals, symbols, and nemesis,
Yeah.
and go ahead.
Temptations.
Temptations.
Ooh.
I think they do a really interesting thing here where
Oh,
there's
there we go. Sun Soul and Skag.
yes, that's right. That's right. I was like, why have I seen that at an Adventurers League table? How could that be AL legal? Because it was in the Sword Coast Adventurers Guide. I think they're doing an interesting thing here where they do a balance against type, right? So the clerics have something that they doubt about. The paladins have something that tempts them.
Yep.
Temptation. I really, 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 really like that.
This is again helping facilitate that role play that a lot of people forget about, especially newer players who are coming in and going, I am a paladin, I am here for right and good, and that's all I do.
Right. Yeah, and that's a great place to start your character, but when it just ends up that's the whole character, it gets a little thin and two-dimensional.
Yeah. I actually really, really like the subclasses of Paladin here. I'm not normally a person who plays Paladins, but the Paladin subclasses in here are really neat.
They look really, really fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm
All
very
right.
excited.
Of the ones that are here, which one is your favorite? There's the Oath of Conquest.
Oh, I thought Conquest is like an Inquisitor.
Yes.
It's like
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
really cool.
I like the Conquest.
Okay.
It's
There's Oath of Redemption.
Which actually is, I think, a really interesting roleplay class, subclass. The way it's built is that you believe that any villain you face off against has the chance to be redeemed, except for the ones that don't, and those should be destroyed without prejudice.
I think that takes playing the good character on a different level. Just in general, you're not I'm being good, but it's I have to show you the way. I
And
think
I'm not going to
as
kill you until I've proven to you.
It'll help that role playing
Yeah.
happen much more fluidly.
Yeah.
I like it. I'm really about that too.
Yeah, it's really cool.
How do you
stuff.
choose a new character to make? This is gonna be so hard.
They're all
It's just
really
there's so
cool.
much fun stuff and good stuff and
And fun fact, Oath of Redemption gets counterspell.
ooh.
Yeah.
Played enough Magic to know where that
that's,
goes.
Right.
Yeah.
And has some great healing abilities too, right? Protective Spirit, starting at 15th level, a holy presence mends your wounds in battle. You regain hit points equal to 1d6 plus half your paladin level if you end your turn in combat with fewer than half your hit points remaining. Which, you're looking at minimum 16 up to 21 hit points around. That's pretty good.
nice.
That's decent.
Pretty nice.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
That's actually.
those high-level abilities, I was like, who plays the 15th level?
I don't think
done it, but
I've
it's
never
tough.
gotten to 15th level.
It doesn't happen often.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
I like it's an interesting trope, the warrior of peace, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
fascinating.
Well, and all of it's also really interesting if you look at all of the spells that you're given. They're all non-damage dealing. They're whole person. They're control spells that are going to immobilize your foe and neutralize a threat, so
they
that
not
you can
get-
get in there and talk to them.
Oh yeah.
Sanctuary, sleep, calm emotions, hold person,
Yeah.
counterspell, hypnotic patterns,
Like, I'm going to give you a minute to think about this. And
hold monster, wall
Yeah.
of force.
Yeah.
Pretty boss.
yeah, it's pretty sweet. But if you want to go in and hit things with your axe, which all of us do from time to time,
Yeah, I
that
mean,
may not be the way to go.
You literally have 20 other options to do that, is the thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that this is going to be the most common paladin, but it's nice to see just kind of that little place in the game kind of carved out and given some attention.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure.
Or for the person
Especially in a
who
game where everybody is like such a bunch of murder hobos.
Yeah.
Right?
Or,
Yeah.
or when you get the murder hobo who's for the first time is like, I want to try something different. You can go, this is really different. This is still a paladin. This is still, you can hit hard when you need to, but here's a new way to try it. So I think it's a cool option.
Murder hobo.
I think too, it is an interesting way to, one of the pieces of advice that I keep coming back to is like, if you as the DM have your villains fight to the death, you've really closed off a major thoroughfare for dropping hints and propelling the plot forward, right? They can't interrogate that guy or whatever.
Yeah.
And this would certainly, would be a great kind of finishing character for we run the guys down, we wear down the minions, we get everybody kind of backed into a corner, and then the Oath of Redemption guy kind of locks them up and we capture them. So.
Well, and you can also play it, as 10th Doctor, where you always have to give them the opportunity
Yeah.
to change their mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll throw down if you have to, but you're always going to give them that chance.
I mean, I haven't watched a lot of Grey's Anatomy, so I don't know exactly what you're talking about with 10th
Neither
Doctor.
have I, so.
But isn't that what you're referring
I love
to
the
with
10th Doctor
with the 10th
in Grey's
Doctor?
Anatomy.
No, am I wrong
she
about
was-
that?
yeah.
It was after McDreamy. There was, I don't know, was there 9 more? Is that how it worked? There's Meredith, there's McDreamy, there's the guy who left there's the 2 guys who left the show. That's 4. I don't know who the other 6 are.
They brought in a lot of
Not
other-
my fandom, you guys.
Wrong one to ask.
All right,
Yeah.
that joke went giant turd.
As you know.
Let's turn the page and find
Okay.
out why Jen is so hyped about the Ranger.
So hyped. Okay. So your options here, your tables are views of the world, your homelands, and your sworn enemies. Not your favorite enemies, but your sworn enemies. Difference. But your archetypes, you get your Gloomstalkers, which are your Underdark Rangers. It's your
Rangers of the
who
night.
don't do so well in the sunlight, kind of thing.
Does that archetype turn you into Spider-Man? Because if it doesn't, it's an epic design fail. You should be able to shoot webs and wall crawl and make smart aleck remarks while you take pictures for your local hometown newspaper.
You're getting Umbral
Glooms-
sight.
Gloomstalker.
So that's pretty cool.
I wonder if they're like, we need like a Spider-Man Ranger. We need like a.
Ooh, you know what? You are invisible to creatures with dark vision. That's
Oh,
actually super
That's
cool.
boss. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're a sneaky sneak.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's pretty. That's pretty
See,
cool.
well, how are you supposed to pick? How are you supposed to pick? Can I just be one of every class? No, because you have to be level 3 to take the subclass. Ah, bummer.
Yeah, the Gloomstalker really is like, let's murder Drow
Yeah.
with relentless authority.
Let's
You're gonna go play Out of the
murder
Abyss.
Drow.
Grab yourself a Gloomstalker and you're set.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we get into the Horizon Walker.
Oh man, I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
This is why
I'm so
Planescape.
excited.
It's gonna be Planescape, you guys. It's gonna be Planescape.
Yeah.
It's gotta be Planescape because you don't introduce a Horizon Walker with Portal Sense if you're not gonna give us Planescape. Which then allows us to do Dark Sun and it gives us everything. Planescape will
She
open
just
up.
really wants Dark Sun, everybody.
I
so
do
if we
really
could
want
just,
Dark Sun.
tweet at Wizards to make Dark Sun 5e.
Jen
please.
wants Dark Sun.
Dear Chris Perkins.
Yeah, Chris Perkins.
Chris Perkins knows I want Dark Sun.
Yeah. We had that conversation. Like,
Yeah, but Planescape, also an excellent life choice.
Yeah, so
No.
Gaurav is playing a Horizon Walker in our Wednesday night Iron Keep game. Yes, so he Misty stepped last night for the first time. He was like, "Oh, well, I got the book at Gamehole Con, so I think I'm just gonna make sure my character is now
it's all up to code.
legal." I'm like, "You jerk! All right."
Misty Step is
Then
so
he had to
fun.
Misty Step 30 feet instead of 20, which is what I thought it was. But he actually had to Misty Step the full distance that it specifies in the rules, which I think is cheating.
What you have to do? You have to do.
You don't. But I was under the misconception that you could only do 20 feet with a Misty Step, and the truth is you can do
it's
30
broken.
feet. Yeah.
It's broken.
I'm like, you jerk. All right, I see how it is.
Rob, I don't know if there are any big changes for Gloomstalker from the UA. I would have to look into it. But
Is there something specific that you're concerned about? Because we can run down the abilities very quickly. Dread Ambusher gives you a bonus to your initiative equal to your Wisdom modifier, and increases your walking speed each turn. Which this Dread Ambusher ability is super
pretty
badass.
good, yeah.
Where's
Right here. So you master the art of the ambush. You get a bonus to initiative rolls equal to your Wisdom modifier at the start of your first turn of each combat. So the first turn, your walking speed increases by 10 feet, which lasts until the end of the turn. So on the very first turn, you get 10 feet, and you get to make an additional weapon attack
what at level 3rd level?
if you take an attack option on the first turn.
If that attack hits,
Yeah.
the target takes an extra D8 of the weapon's
wait, so
damage.
what happens if you stack that with Rogue?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Like, you get sneak attack on that, you're getting...
I mean, to be fair, you need to get to what, like level 3 in Rogue to get anything
So
decent.
if you're
So
level 6, if you take 3 and 3, I mean,
yeah, all
you're
right.
an unstoppable, hiding, stalking,
But
killing machine.
you've given up a feat to do
That's
that,
true.
and you've given up any other sort of fifth or sixth level abilities.
Yeah, that's, I mean,
See,
that,
I love your-
that turns you into the ultimate.
You're pushing everything to the very first round at that point.
That's
is the
true.
thing, right?
And you really would need to be doing an underdog campaign for that to be, for this.
And
to
I don't
be
know, like
super-
the super cool assassin ability that you can use. I don't know that that's unlocked at 3rd level, right? Is it?
Well,
Don't you
I
have
mean,
to
if
kind of
you-
go up
you'd
a little
take
bit?
You'd have to take the assassin subtype.
Right.
But any rogue, you're going to get sneak attack bonus.
It's true. It's yeah.
So it's a big stack, and to be able to move that quickly, plus getting your, if you have all of your.
Yeah, it's one of those gild in the lily things, right? Like
Yeah,
if that's what you want to do is like pinpoint nuclear strike. I myself have seen that go so terribly wrong.
They jump out. And yeah, see, I would be like, I've got the
It
perfect
wouldn't help
character.
John at all.
I've got the perfect character. I'm gonna pop out, attack him twice, and just blow him up. And then I'll roll like crit fail, and then they'll be like, "Oh, he found you. He eats you. You're dead."
Yeah.
Well, that's fun. Like,
James V wants to know which one's the min-maxer. I don't know that we can definitively say anymore.
I never said I don't know how to min that. Just like my role play.
Fair enough.
But,
So yeah,
and then 2 levels of paladin and smite on top of it. Oh man.
yeah. So
Oh,
I don't know
wow.
that the revised ranger is street legal at this point. They did not actually include a revision to the
Yeah.
ranger. They didn't introduce any new core classes, and they did not revise any of the core
And from
classes.
what I've heard is they're not going to allow, like, revised ranger is not going to be canon for. They're going to stick with original ranger, which I have mixed feelings about that.
what was the difference with the Rangers?
I think people just generally feel that the ranger as presented is a little underpowered
compared to everything else?
I jumped into Ranger and tried to be long range rogue with Ranger with abilities, and I was super bummed that I didn't get sneak attack. So I was like, this really is underwhelming.
Yeah,
And the extra damage off of like my abilities was like so minuscule that I was like, oh, okay. all
Yeah, I
right.
mean, stuff like Split the Tree and, that made Rangers so cool now just kind of doesn't. It's
Yeah,
not cool.
I always feel like you want to actually stack that with battle maneuvers, and do that thing where it's like, no, I want to make that shot count. I'm going to roll that D8 and get an extra I don't know. That's me. Honestly,
So
I
if
wonder
you're gonna
that
play a ranged character, you want to go fighter.
I kind of
You
think.
can do it with Rogue too. You can get your sneak attack with it.
But I mean, I like the maneuver. I like the maneuver plan. I just like to get up in it. Is my issue. I want to play a ranged character, but it's like I want to be in the fight.
Yeah.
There's like a point blank feat, isn't there? Like where you can,
Yeah, and it's not as punishing anymore as it used to be in like 3rd edition, where when you were like up close, it was like, no, you're taking attacks of opportunity, and you have penalties to your rolls and all that kind of stuff. It's not quite that bad anymore.
Yeah.
It's a little more forgiving.
Okay. Just more ways to die, and the game.
And so
Horizon Walker.
Horizon Walker.
So we were just going to run down
Rob said he
Gloomstalker.
didn't
I
have
don't know.
specific.
Okay.
He was just curious if
Yeah.
it was different.
So they have Umbral Sight. They have Iron Mind that protects them against mind-altering powers.
Yeah.
Stalker's Flurry. You can turn a miss into another strike. Once on each of your turns, when you miss with a weapon attack, you can make another weapon attack as part of the same action.
good.
So
Nice.
you get a do-over on that. That's
Definitely need
nice.
that ability just built in.
Yeah.
The shadowy dodge.
Yeah. So I don't know. It seems like a very cool. It does seem like ideal for an Underdark,
It's an Underdark
kind of
ranger,
thing.
yeah.
I feel like an Underdark campaign would be really fun.
An Underdark campaign would be great if you're going to run out of the abyss. This is gorgeous. For
This
it.
might-
Yeah.
But up above the surface, it's less useful. It feels like.
Yes.
Unless you're going to be in deep delve.
The thing about being immune to dark vision would still be useful, I think, at times, because there's enough races that just kind of blanket have dark vision that again, I look at this and I think you're right. Like combining this with the rogue would be a really interesting choice. You'd be able to sneak into a lot of places that would normally be ruined by you're getting detected by dark vision.
You're like, yeah, don't get any ideas, guys.
All right.
So Horizon Walkers, this is just built for Planescape.
Yeah. I'm really excited about this. I like the whole concept of pulling from not just nature. I like that.
I love all of the planar stuff in D&D, and even though I'm not really a Planescape guy at all, I loved the idea of fading into the ethereal, stepping through a portal to the astral plane, the silver cord, all that kind of stuff. It's played a really big role in our Iron Keep game. Just because I feel like it's an interesting way to kind of layer different realities on top of each other without having to physically go someplace else, right? It's just like, oh, okay, you see a crack in the seal between the realities, and now you're stepping into the ethereal portion of this room or whatever. So this Horizon
like
Walker
that a lot.
thing has really actually like kind of snuck into our game. Partly because Grav wanted to play that guy, and partly because I love that element as a design element as a DM.
Yeah.
Because you could hide stuff on the others. That's really cool. I'm very interested in seeing how that is played out.
All right, if unless we're gonna go 3 hours, we should probably pick up the pace here a little bit.
All right.
So next one is a Monster Slayer. This was similar to what was in Curse of Strahd a little bit, but this is much more. That was a background, I think, and this is that was Monster Hunter, and this is Monster Slayer, and this is the Ranger. So seeking out vampires, dragons, evil, fae fiends, and other magical threats, and going after them. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't want to get into the weeds too much more. It's
Yes.
tricky not to like just every page like
Yeah.
gives you an idea. I sat here before the stream started, and like they were just arguing like, oh, I want to do this. I want to do this.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for the Inquisitive and the Mastermind rogue. Because I want to play James Bond in D&D. I think it'd be really fun.
Yeah.
And that's definitely the Mastermind, right? We've got the Inquisitive, which
Yeah. This is someone who trades in secrets.
Yeah.
So this is also
also something that would probably work.
it's also a little fingery kind of manipulation. This is breaking
Yeah.
the meta again.
Yeah.
a bit.
Mastermind and then gets.
You're picking up accents, so you can seamlessly blend in as a native of an area. Stuff like that. It's really cool.
And yeah, Mastermind your focus is on people and on the influence and secrets that they have. Many spies and schemers follow this archetype. I really like. I'm so excited for this. This is probably going to be my next my next subclass for sure.
One of your fun things here is you get to use help as a bonus action.
Can you grab the Sword Coast Adventures
pretty
guide that's on the
sweet.
shelf? To
Yes,
left. There you go. You almost did it.
Just kidding. It's right here.
I believe is Mr. James V donate one of these for us? Is that where that came from? Thank you,
nice.
sir.
Thank you.
Because Estelle Castillo wants to know if this got changed from the Skag to the current book. And I honestly don't have a huge problem with them including material from there in this book, right? Like if you don't want all of the flavor and world building of the realms that's in the first half of the Skag, then that's fine. That's your thing. All right, so then we're gonna have to go down to Rogue, and that's monks. Oh, they arranged it alphabetically. What a bold choice. All right, so all right, Master of Intrigue.
So here
Looks pretty similar. Master of Tactics, 3rd level. Use help as a bonus action. That looks pretty similar.
So those are exactly the same.
Yeah. Insightful Manipulator looks the same. Misdirection looks the same. And Soul of Deceit looks the same. So it doesn't look like it's been updated or revised at all. I would be surprised if it was.
So they've had this the whole time, is what you're saying. Thanks.
Yes. I'm glad you're excited about it. Why don't you go out and buy some other books?
See how it is.
You
All
also
right.
get Swashbuckler too in here, which was
Yeah.
too.
Yes. Swashbuckler Scout. Thank you, James, for helping us keep our library current. All right, so Sorcerer here. Sorcerers get arcane origins, supernatural marks, and signs of sorcery, which are interesting. Although I always think things like you deliver the verbal components of your spells in the booming voice of a titan seems awesome, except if it's always on.
Then it's like, you need to calm down.
Can you not cast that invisibility spell right now? Because
Thanks, dude. That was really helpful.
So that's the virtue there. What have we? I'm going to turn my phone. I know you guys can't hear it, but I can hear it. So I'm going to turn my phones down.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't picked through this with a fine-tooth comb enough to know where the tweaks to the spells might be. It doesn't seem like the classes got tweaked.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty similar.
I will say that, like, on balance overall, if that's the thing that you're looking for, you're sort of that's not a reason to either like buy the book or not buy the book. Has this class been tweaked? Because the other material that's in here to me makes it a worthwhile value.
There's so much flavor.
There's
in
other
here.
stuff.
Just so much cool
I
stuff.
don't. I flip through this and I don't feel ripped off, like going, oh well, the Sun Soul, monk is in there. Well, what do we do? I mean, that's one less book that I have to carry or have at the table.
We're not into a lot of the later stuff, but the common magical items alone, I think, is enough to make this worthwhile.
Yeah.
So we'll get there. But
So there's shadow magic. There's storm sorcery.
divine sorcery.
Mm-hmm. Those are the the divine soul. Those are the 3 new sorceress origins for the sorcerer class.
Yeah, well, get the storm sorcerer going. There's a really cool storm tempest crowd to be done.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like that it's a plus or minus that they didn't tweak this stuff. I think it's nice that it's consistent with whatever's established already, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
And I think they're making a deliberate effort to not have, okay, well, this revised ranger in this book now supersedes the player's handbook version.
Right.
It would be interesting. I was thinking today, like, what if they did that old 6x9 format of just like, okay, here's all of your arcane classes, boom.
Yeah.
In one of those little 6x9 soft cover formats.
And that way it'd be easy to transport. It would
Yeah.
be. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what Beyond is in a lot of ways now.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think we'll get into that conversation too of like where do apps and beyond that sort of stuff interface with what they're choosing to put out.
Yeah.
I have a very particular thought about that. Warlocks. What I like about the Warlock packs is there's the Celestial pack now, which Warlocks were always so like shadowy and evil.
Yeah, brooding.
Yeah.
I've
Emo.
made a pact with one of the great old ones, and like there was the Fae version, but it was not. Even that was a little borderline, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Like
Yeah.
I don't know, it felt. Maybe it's on my own personal like prejudice of the way that I viewed that particular pact, but it felt very kind of whimsical and frivolous.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see something like this where I have made an arrangement with a greater power that actually does things for the sake of good, right?
Yeah.
So that's my angle on it. It may kind of cross over and step into some other shoes that other classes might have, but we've already seen that with, like we said earlier, the divine path of the barbarian, that sort of thing. So I don't know. I like to see it as an option on top of the other stuff that if you want to play somebody who's just a bloodthirsty kind of warrior slash
But
warlock,
a
you can
heal-
play the Hexblade.
A healing
right?
warlock is really interesting.
Yeah.
It's an interesting approach to it. But yeah, the Hexblade, the Hexblade is really, really cool.
I think one of the things that I like about the Warlock is that it has like a built-in story hook to it, right? Like that's what it makes it such an appealing character class. And sometimes I worry that the fundamentals of the character class just don't kind of live up to the promise that's there. It's like, what am I going to do with my 2 spells today?
Yeah.
That's the part of it where it feels a little like it's a very weird kind of niche class that has a lot of appeal for players. But when we started our 5e game on Wednesdays, Amy wanted to play a Warlock, and I was like, hey, you can have all of that, like I have a connection with an otherworldly patron, and then we'll just use the Mystic rules, and then you don't have to go, well, I only have 2 spells, so here's another Eldritch Blast, Eldritch Blast, Eldritch Blast.
Yeah.
And just my armchair opinion is it's a class that has so much magnetism for players, and then when you get into the details of it, it's a very narrowly focused kind of class where they go, why can't I cast all these spells like how does the wizard have 7 different spells? I only have 2. Well, yeah, that's the way it works.
Yeah.
So it's a little weird that way.
Yeah.
See, I just prefer not to have spell slots.
You missed out.
That's right.
You missed out.
If you don't have spell slots, how would if you had spell slots, what would you roll dice for?
Ex-
They roll a saving throw. That's not how my character's ineffective. My character's ineffective because I blew a roll on my d20, not because the DM beat me with his dice. My dice failed me. That's John's philosophy.
Yes, this is indeed my philosophy.
Fair enough. So there are some new Eldritch
Get your war
invocations.
wizards. We get war wizards. War wizards are cool.
Yeah, moving on to wizards.
War magic. War magic.
So, big boomer evocation wizards in the School of War Magic. And that's it, right? That's it for the
That's
wizards.
the
I mean, the
only wizard,
wizards
yeah.
have a broad kind of role within the game already, so they get a lot of friendly attention. I always thought if you wanted to play something that was like, really blow stuff up, play the sorcerer. That was my
To me,
take
I
on it.
I like the idea of less control over the magic that you have. I think I'm more appealed to if I was going to play Magic using magic-based class. I would probably go sorcerer.
Wild magic sorcerer.
Yeah. Wild magic just seems super fun.
It can be really, really
Yeah, but
especially if you write a custom table for it.
Yeah.
That's the way to go.
I think that's the temptation for every time that comes up. I don't bother writing up random tables. I just make decks of cards. Okay, well now pick what your magical effect is.
Ooh.
I don't know. There's something about that.
The randomness in the tactile.
It's the tactile. It's the play experience, right? So if you have the player roll percentile dice, every roll kind of feels the same. But if you have them pick a card, then they really have this moment of choice where it's like all of the possibilities are in fact physically laid out in front of them, and they get to decide which one it's going to be, rather than a roll of the dice is the same and all of the possibilities are equally, kind of like ethereal and void.
Yeah.
I like this a lot.
No,
I like that a
I
lot.
love
it so
tactile
much.
stuff at my table. I mean, that was what my GM tips was about, was using props at the table and integrating those sorts of tactile things into your game to involve your players and
Right.
engage your players.
Right.
So I love any opportunity to do that.
There are some new invocations in Xanathar's. I'm not going to run through them all, but Aspect of the Moon, Cloak of Flies, Ghostly Gaze, Gift of the Ever-Living Ones. So, Grasp of Hadar. Yeah. They did sort of like 4E up all of the descriptions of everything here, where it has this epic kind of World of Warcraft name attached to it, which is fine.
Well, because Hands of Hadar, or
You got to give the world flavor, right?
or Arms of Hadar.
I'm totally down with that.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So there's a whole section here, which is basically kind of like a life path character creation section called "This Is Your Life." And it gives you a bunch of different tables to kind of burn through here and decide what your birthplace was like, how many siblings you have, what your family was like, and then new kind of backgrounds, like if you were an acolyte, why did you become an acolyte? If you were a folk hero, what drove you to become a folk hero, etc.
I really, really like this kind of stuff because especially for the newer role players, this gives them a meaty base, and it just adds to that meatiness. And I love that, and I love that, and I love that so much.
Yeah, and they're good. It's good. It's good concept, and I love that they do family stuff in here because not every adventure has to be an orphan with a tragic backstory. Like, give your characters a life before what they did.
When I was back in the 3E days, I was one of the mods on Monty Cook's Malhavoc Press forums, and we did a special event for one of his books where players could submit their character backgrounds and talk about their character, and then we had to pick like the top 10 or 20 or something like that to feature in the back of a book. Like it was going into supplement. Like you wrote up your character and then you were going to get your character in the book. And I can't tell you, we got like 200 submissions or something like that, and every time it was like, oh, he's an orphan who lost his parents at an, and I was like, all right, well, let's just kind of set this aside on the orphan pile and see if there's anything else interesting, because I didn't really realize it myself. Yeah, until it just came up over and over and over again.
Though, this is partially a DM thing, is DMs, if you have players that give you family backstories, use that and don't use it as a tool to torture your players.
Right.
Don't use the family backstories as an opportunity to build out the life of the player and have that happen, rather than going, I'm going to take your parents and kill them. Like,
I did just send
didn't
parents off to, well, there was a lot of pathos involved, so
because
just
then
don't
you
strike me
become,
down.
I'm an orphan with a tragic backstory because my DM turned me into one.
Yeah, I
Like,
did it. I'm mean. Well, so the setup was that the one of the character's sisters, her sister had gone missing, and so you have to track her and her boyfriend down, and that's why they went to the Sunless Citadel. And then when they got there, they found out that the whole family was actually involved in all this very dirty business that the character didn't necessarily know about.
So this character had a very positive backstory. Like, I love my family's the best, turns out, and the DM ruined it all.
Yeah. I mean, so I think there's an opportunity there for you to turn that into a story that can become about, like, they were not executed, right? So the parents are not out of the scene. In fact, the mother was sort of given this reprieve, like you're allowed to raise your young daughter for the next 5 years until she's of age, and then you have to go like serve on a work farm. And the other guy was sentenced to a similar kind of the father was sentenced to a similar kind of sentence, but it became more of a I don't know. It's complicated. They lived. Yeah, one went to prison. The other's under house arrest.
If they're alive, they're still in
I didn't straight up murder them, and I also didn't take them off and torture them in like mean or abrupt, grotesque ways.
Yeah.
At least not ways that they saw.
Yeah, no, one of them got turned into a bird. That was her torture. Like, she got turned into a bird, and part of the quest was like, you need to get her out of this prison, this extra-dimensional prison that she's been trapped in.
Well, that's pretty cool.
So
Yeah, I think
I'm a good DM, you guys. That's what it comes down to. I'm pretty too.
Yeah, I think it's just that it's become just the trope that everybody assumes their characters are orphans and don't have a family and don't have a backstory, because it makes it easier that you don't have to build that out. But it ultimately becomes such an interesting thing when you then bring the family back in and have to have that dynamic influence their lives in the game.
I agree with you on the one hand that it's easy for the DM to just take that relationship and mercilessly exploit it, which is not necessarily a cool move. On the other hand, if that relationship is there, then I think it's available for the DM to exploit, and or not necessarily exploit, but to take advantage of and to explore, and it should be explored. Otherwise, it's just another meaningless sentence on your character sheet. That's kind of the way I feel about it.
I agree.
So. Yeah. All right, so they have a fairly in-depth set of life events, supernatural events that happen to you, etc., etc. Supplemental tables of if you want to just make up a way to randomly generate your character, well, that's fine. Am I right that there's a way that you may have been killed in this thing?
I think other facts about individuals who are part of your character.
I see. All right. I thought they went full-on Traveler, where during character creation
No,
you
this
could
is like
actually
my
die.
cousin is a
Dead Ranger.
Rip.
Cool.
Racial feats.
So that brings
yes,
us to
yes,
the
yes,
next
yes,
thing.
yes.
Yeah, there's racial feats. There's, I don't know, I would say a dozen, 18, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. There's basically 2 pages, 4, 6, 8. Yeah.
Elven accuracy is back. It's back.
Yeah, so there's 15 racial
And
feats
Halfling
here.
Second Chance is back. So we're getting some 3rd edition stuff coming back into the world. Thank goodness.
Yeah, so these are all definitely tied to your race, things that you can exploit. Dwarven Fortitude, you have the prerequisite, you have to be a dwarf. Flames of Phlegethos, you have to be a tiefling. Orcish Fury, you have to be a half-orc, etc. Prodigy is the human one.
You have a knack for learning. Well, it's half elf, half orc, half human. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's based in human
Yeah.
now.
You have the knack for learning new things. You gain 1 skill proficiency of your choice, 1 tool proficiency of your choice, and 1 fluency in 1 language of your choice.
I love that so
That's
much.
nice.
I love
pretty
I
good.
love that you get expertise. I love expertise because I roll low.
Yeah. So those are interesting. Those are fun. That brings us to the end of the players section. Other than, unless you consider the X number of pages, I think my phone is full on ringing in my pocket. Did that happen? It did not. All right, good. But we are running over here, and I don't know if you have a hard out.
I just may need to go put money in the meter kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
I have a heart.
Okay, great. So we should wrap up in the next 5 minutes. Does that work for you?
So we should go fast, yeah.
Cool. All right. So chapter 3 is spells. I think
Chapter
that's
2 is Dungeon Master's Tools. You get
Yeah.
stuff about rules about sleep. You get crafting, tying knots, tool proficiencies, that kind of stuff. Going more in depth on artisanship and how that all works. Using tools more in depth. Because
Yeah,
we
there's a
haven't done
lot of
that.
interesting DM stuff going on here in terms of they introduce rules for buying, making, and selling magic items. I think that's fascinating pieces of the
Yes.
system that were kind of mysterious and kind of, especially buying and selling magic items seemed like it should have been more kind of an integral part of the DMG, and it's interesting to see that they finally okay, well, we're going to attack this head on and explicitly lay out how it works.
Yeah.
So they really make a much bigger deal of downtime in this particular bent on the DM help here. So I like that. I am kind of so-so. There's probably what are we looking at here?
Regional encounter tables.
Yeah, and
By level.
I'm just curious how many pages
a
it
lot.
is, because I you can go back to Disorganized Play and watch me rant about random encounter tables, and these
It's
are
like 20 pages
yeah
almost.
the
No,
most
yeah,
it's 20 pages. These are kind of the most base, simplified, straightforward kind of random encounters. I don't know. It's nice to have this list of monsters put together for you so that you don't have to create your own table.
And where they might be.
That piece of it is nice. I'd like to see a little more flourish on, well, what does this monster have a quirk? Does this monster have some sort of purpose? You could almost, make a quirk and a purpose table separate.
But I'd argue a lot of that was what Volos was for.
Yeah, all right. I mean, I feel you. I'd want it in one place, I guess,
Yeah.
because this sort of promulgates the idea that random counters pop up. There's a fight for no reason that anybody understands,
Yeah.
and and then it's done with, and the players go, well, wait a minute, what was that gray slot? What was he here looking for? Oh, and now you're stuck going, now I got to come up with something.
Yeah.
Well, if you were a good DM, you'd say, find out. Just kidding.
There's a
Why don't
whole
you go investigate that?
there's a whole new section on traps, so
Yeah.
that I enjoyed. I enjoyed the new common magic items. I like the low level kind of magic items that are included in here. There's a whole huge section on downtime activities for your players to indulge in, all the way from, like I said, buying magic items to carousing and crafting magic items, scribing spell scrolls, selling magic items, that sort of stuff.
Super cool.
They do have a section on awarding magic items, which of course I will largely ignore because my players all have artifacts at this point. So,
Oh, damn.
well,
Okay.
like I said,
Okay.
convince your DM to play White Plume Mountain, and you'll find that
Yeah.
your party rapidly takes on.
Fair enough. He's not going to go for it.
Yeah.
He's never going to let us play that.
So I heard there's this cool place called White Plume
Yeah,
Mountain.
that's good luck.
Yeah. So
He has the module, but he's not going to.
we finish off with two sections. There's a well, let's see, what are we at here? About 20 pages of spells.
Yep.
I haven't combed through those
By
at
the
all.
way, anyone who wants if you want your min-max new favorite cantrip, check out Toll the Dead. 1d12 of damage on a cantrip, scaling.
Toll the Dead.
Yeah, so that's a fun one.
Oh yeah, interesting. Necromantic spell. If it's missing any of its hit
Yeah.
points,
As
brutal.
long as you don't go first, you're good.
Yeah, nice.
You're good.
There are some variant rules about character advancement and shared campaigns in the back here. And then finally, Appendix B is a huge list of random names.
Which I
here.
find interesting that they spent so many pages on character names.
Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of these are human origin, like
Right. Egyptian,
Earth
German,
names.
French, Chinese, Japanese,
Polynesian,
that sort of stuff.
Slavic. Yeah.
I
all
like
over
that
the
they've gone
place.
through and done kind of the editing piece of it for you, where there's so many times where I'll use an online generator that just kind of goes weird and random, and you pick up a name that you're like, I don't know, and then you'll meet somebody who's like, why would you name your character Toilet Brush? And you're like, oh, I didn't, because I don't know anything about it. So it's nice that there's,
'cause
there's
it's
a curated list,
Yeah.
you know, instead of just something random off the internet. Why wouldn't you name your character Toilet Brush is the real question.
It hasn't everything.
But this kind of ties into a point that I wanted to make earlier, or that I brought up earlier, which is I feel like this and the random encounter tables is an ideal thing to be slotted into D&D Beyond, and maybe make you'd be able to customize it a little bit and curate that thing. But like, bam, hit your tablet, roll it, it happens for you, and we could have this material live over here.
Yeah.
I do like. I mean, I am a fan of like paper and sitting down at the book and getting inspiration and rolling dice. I don't like to have a bunch of apps open to run my game.
I like the physical component of the game, because it's all mental.
Yeah.
And to have the physical component to just go along with it, it's nice. And as soon as you start getting into the app, I don't like to swipe through the book. I like to flip and like feel the pages on my hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, if in character creation, this is I like that it's randomized, so I
Yeah.
could roll a 100-sided die. If I wanted to go completely, you can make a completely random character in this book.
I love that. I think when I have 192 pages and 40 of them are dedicated to random tables, I want to make sure that those random tables are really serving my needs.
That's important.
You know, this. I don't know how often I'm going to crack it open and use it. That's my question. I'm actually like a fan of the Ultimate Toolbox books that that AEG put out for 3rd edition that were just all random tables. It's like, here's a whole section on taverns, and just start throwing D20s all over the place.
But
Here's a
that's
whole
really-
section
yeah,
on
that's really awesome, too.
that sort of thing. I don't know. That's
I
me.
think that this book could have had less of that, I think. But I wish that there was more they would have introduced more classes. Just in general.
More classes, John.
20
more
new
items.
subclasses.
I just always want more.
Well, I'm sure there will be
Which
more.
is the magical thing about
But-
D&D. You're always gonna get
You're
more.
And if
already
you don't get it, then
paralyzed
you
by
can homebrew
choice.
it.
I don't know why.
He's like,
You
I don't
think
know why you want
that
more,
more
John.
classes would do it for you.
Yeah,
So.
so what are you going to play next?
What am I'm pretty sure it's gonna be a mastermind. Pretty sure. But I also want to try that. One of the fighters, or one of the rogues, or one of the rangers. Or I could just go
College of Whispers.
I-
College
yeah.
of Whispers.
College of Whispers. A bard. Yeah, the bard. I might do a bard.
Hexblade.
man.
I don't know. There's so many awesome things.
I'll tell you, for
Yeah.
me as the DM, I'm going to start combing through the spell list and go, what am I going to drop on my players that
Yeah.
they're not going to be able to predict what this is all about.
Yeah.
And I'm going to look at the common magic items. I really like
Oh,
that.
the common magic items are super cool because they're almost all for flavor. Like, one of the things the 5th edition doesn't allow you to do is have a lot of magic items early on, but I miss it a lot. I miss having magic everywhere. And
If you hit somebody with a magic item, is it considered a magic, like if you use it as an improvised weapon, is it considered a magic weapon?
Probably not.
Maybe so, but you're not getting a proficiency bonus, so
Yeah.
That's
your
fine.
bad dice luck is already...
Well, I'm just saying, if I can't hit the thing that's like impervious to regular damage, would I be able to get around that with this?
I'm kind of with Jen on this. Like, if you wrap a spell scroll around your fist and then punch
It's
a
not
white...
gonna count.
I don't know. If you're that desperate though, why not as the DM? Like, why not let them have like, okay, yeah, fine. And
You're
then
getting
there's
a D4 plus
there's
3.
X percentage of chance that you'll destroy the spell scroll when you punch the guy with it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Alright.
I'll just make you fight a fire elemental, and then you're screwed either way.
True.
Why? Well, I'm a T4.
Great DM or greatest DM? John's going to have to find out at some point in the future. Hey, everybody, that is our time together. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of this book. If you thought that this was what the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide was supposed to be, guess what? Your dreams and wishes have been fulfilled. There's a lot of stuff in here for both DMs and players. I highly recommend this thing. It's going to expand your 5e game in new and interesting ways. When the game has been out for what, like 3 years now, it's kind of like it's
about time.
This is timely. Yeah, this
It's
is
very
timely.
time.
Yeah. So that's the Buzzaloony for today. Thank you so much for joining us for this preview of
Thanks,
Xanathar's
guys.
Guide. Coming up in 4.5 short hours, you can come right back here and watch more Dungeons & Dragons action as the boys from Crit Juice assemble around this very table along with the alcoholic beverages of their choice and proceed to wreck every sort of trope and thing that America's GM David Crennan might possibly have prepared for them tonight. So keep that in mind. That's coming up tonight. We've got anything that you want to watch is on our calendar, bang calendar, or exclamation point calendar, as we like to do in the chat. I want to thank my two guests here, Jen and John.
Thank you.
For coming
Thank
in
you so much for
and
having
sharing
us.
your
And for letting us
enthusiasm and your passion.
Take a look at it all, yeah.
This book, the special cover, drops tomorrow at your Wizards Play Network stores, your FLGS, and then I'm not sure when it hits Amazon, like on the 21st or something like that. Yeah. So
this cover is available on the 21st. The limited edition is available only in stores in person starting tomorrow.
yeah.
Super duper excited.
You do. So thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, let's dungeon.